Inktober Day 3, and this is Illo 203. I am Cory Kerr, and today I am going to be inking a nonsense mashup between Leeloo from The Fifth Element and Mohawk Storm from the X-Men, while I talk about fact in fiction. So I was just talking to a friend of mine that I don't get to talk to very often, and we were talking about a lot of the books that we've read and kind of storytelling in general and a lot of stuff. One thing that stuck out to me in that conversation that I thought would be really interesting to kind of discuss here is this concept that we have kind of as a modern people of things being true or not based on whether they happened or not. So like in a court case, that's very important. But I think in storytelling and literature, we get stuck in this weird thing where we decide that, something is more significant if those things actually occurred. But I think there's something that is more than a fact. There is something that can be more truthful than a fact, and that's if something speaks to the human condition. So if you read a story and you can relate to that story because it speaks to a truth that's a universal truth, or it speaks to, an experience that many people have had, the telling of that story might not actually be factual, but there's a lot of truth in that story. There's just kind of an interesting thing to talk about, the truth that can be in stories that didn't actually happen. And it's not that the retelling of those, or the telling of those events, made it so that it is untrue. It just made it so that it's not historical. Anyway, there's just kind of an interesting concept with that. I think when you think about storytelling and you think about some of these things, for example, I've talked about Spider-Man and the X-Men and a bunch of those things in the past on this, but I would like to think that my moral core is based on, important things and important work, but it was really kind of some silly comic books. I mean, I think I learned what heroes do and what villains do based on what Peter Parker would do. And, what some of these people who would have to do right or wrong in the face of some sort of struggle. I think I learned to stand up for people that can't stand up for themselves, and to fight bullies, and to choose the right even when no one is looking because it's the right thing. Not because of, some great classical work, but because I read Spider-Man and I watched the X-Men cartoons and I watched the animated Batman. And as weird as that sounds, I actually think that fiction, especially children's fiction, has a significant impact in shaping the way that you see the world. It was very interesting several years ago that my daughter was at a stage in life. She's not so much there anymore now that she's kind of almost 9 years old, but when she was 5 and 6, she was very, very interested in who was good and who was bad in a story. So, Dad, is that the good guy or the bad guy? And it's hard for her to understand at that age, ambiguity. So, just interesting that we're kind of wired for that. Oh, actually, before I go, I did want to ask you guys this question. I'm curious if you feel like your moral compass, if you're right or wrong, if you really think about it, if it's based in a fictional character, if it's based in, at least in part, some sort of entertainment or fiction that you consumed as a kid. And if so, what's that makeup? What's the makeup of your moral core? Interesting. I'm super curious to find out what everybody thinks here. Anyway, here's the progress I've got on this page, and we'll see you guys tomorrow when I ink another character. Stay tuned. Check out my stuff at kuretake.com. I'm posting updates on this new Nonsense Inktober mashup dealio poster that I'm doing on Instagram and Twitter. And so follow me there, and we will see you guys tomorrow.